Thank you, single mamas, for joining us again for our podcast. And today I have with us Mykelti Blum, and she is a social worker, and she has been working with adoption foster care for 5 years now. She's worked directly with families, helping them prepare for the process, navigate the ups and downs, and walked alongside expectant mothers looking to create an adoption plan for their child. So Mykelti, we're happy to have you here. She has her own podcast too. Why don't you tell us what that is? So if somebody wants to tune into your podcast, they can do it. And just give a little intro to you. And then I've got a few questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am so excited to be here and thank you for having me. This is a topic I love to talk about. But yeah, like you said, my name is Mykelti and licensed social worker. I have my podcast, Coffee with Kelty. It's under my Heart of the Brave Ministries and heartofthebrave.com. And I also work with Bridging the Gap, which is a women's ministry here in Minnesota. And I run their podcast as well called E to the Power of Three, which is focusing on encouragement and leadership. So I'm a busy lady.
And you can find Bridging the Gap, btg.org, on your websites as well. And they have a lot of articles and a lot of people that might help you as well on the single parent journey. They've got a Facebook group that you can join if you're a single mama as well. And you might be wondering why we're doing a topic on foster care. And we've just seen a growing number of single moms whom we always kind of picture as overwhelmed and can hardly manage their own kids, but they're really branching out and doing foster care more and more. And so I invited Mykelti here to speak to us on that topic, just for those that might be interested. Maybe you've considered it, maybe you wonder, why would I want to do it? And so she's got some answers for us. And I thought we'd start out with just one question is, why the foster care helps single moms on their journey? What is the benefit for a single mom to do foster care?
Yeah. I have had the honor to work with a lot of single moms who do foster care and do foster care with the purpose of adoption as well. So I've had the privilege to walk with them in their journey. And it's an incredibly important and rewarding process. I mean, you're helping these kids who really need it. I know in Minnesota specifically, on any given day, there is around 1,500 kids that need some sort of foster home. And I think the number is rising. It's so much is dependent on that and factoring in. But it's such an important need. And it helps you to be able to grow in your skills too in parenting and being able to support these kids that just need a home and someone that can speak into them. So I don't ever think that because you're single, you can't go forward in this process. I've had that fear a lot shared with me, and I say you can absolutely do this. It's great for you. It's great for these kids. It's also good for your kids too in the home. If you have birth and biological kids in the home is ready, it's just a rewarding. It's hard, but it's a rewarding process for everyone involved.
How would a single mom know if she's really ready to take that step of fostering? What are some of the characteristics you look for in a foster parent?
Yeah, we are really looking for people who, one, have a nurturing tendency. They have that ability that they're willing to put aside their own needs to be able to do what is best for these kids. And if you are feeling in a good place that the kids that might be already in your home are ready to support another child or children coming in, or maybe you're a single mom and your kids are leaving the nest, they're headed off to college or they're adult children, and you feel like you're in a good place to have another child come into the home, I think those are all really good signs that, yeah, I might be ready for this journey. But you really have to be able to have that adaptability and flexibility in this journey. These kids coming into your home have experienced trauma. That's the reason they're coming in, and they might have experienced neglect, abuse to any type of form, or just abandonment in some ways. The number one reason kids are coming into care right now is actually because of parental substance abuse. So they're coming from a tough situation. So having that empathy and the ability to be flexible to, all right, we have to go to this specific service, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And, he might be having a great day on Wednesday, but Thursday is just a meltdown day. You have to have that flexibility and willingness to seek out resources and ask for help.
And I suppose the important thing is you've got your family in a place of stability before you even consider doing this, it's not a financial, it shouldn't be a financial outlet for you, like you're going to earn money. It really has to be that your family is stable, you're in a good place, and you're ready, and your kids are ready to open up to having an additional member. And, it might seem like kind of a common sense thing, but sometimes we can look at things with the wrong idea.
Mhm.
What about the pros and cons of those that go into foster care with looking to adopt? I know some have no intention, they just want to do the what can we do for this moment, but there are those that want to adopt. What are the pros and cons of this?
Yeah, I mean, adoption is needed too, just as much as foster care. And I think it really depends on your heart and what you're hoping for. Some families come into this with the mindset of, I don't think that I would be able to have a child reunify. That would be too hard for me. That'd be too hard for the kids in the home. So adoption is definitely a pro in that place where you're able to provide permanency for these kids. If you're looking to have that more long-term relationship, then absolutely adoption is the pro. The con for the adoption piece is it is a lifelong permanent commitment. So if you don't feel that you're in that place and you're ready to take that next step, then that wouldn't be the best option for you. But with foster care, just in that temporary sense, you have the ability as a pro to be pouring into these kids and knowing that it's just going to be a temporary situation. So if that's your heart and you just want to be helping these kids and launching them into whatever is next, then foster care is a really good option for you in that way. But the con of that too is, like I said, it can be really hard for your heart and to not know a lot of times what situation these kids are going back to, just not having a lot of answers or having to say goodbye. So there's pros and cons to both. Absolutely.
I think going into it, realizing that they may go back and that you're going to have to be able to handle that, and your kids are. I have a single mom friend who recently adopted a 17-year-old because she wanted her to have family as she grew out of the foster care system, that she felt she had a family to come back to. So there's so many options in the foster care world.
Yeah.
How important is the training before you go into foster care? I know some have kind of tried to bypass that I know, and I've seen it not work too well. So just tell us a little bit about the training that goes into becoming a foster parent.
Yeah, training is vital. And that has been what I have more moved into in my time in foster care, is doing the 2-day training classes that are required. And in those trainings, we are talking all about grief and loss, attachment, talking about behaviors with trauma, all of these different factors, cultural pieces to it, identity, because all of those are going to impact how a child is coming into your home. And the families who do the work ahead of time and they take that training and they take it seriously and do all they can with reading books, watching webinars, podcasts, there's a lot of options out there. They are far more successful because they have this baseline understanding of, why is my child acting the way they are? And instead of going back to some of those typical parenting techniques that we might have learned growing up, these kids have to be parented differently. Some of those discipline strategies and consequences aren't going to work. And so you need to understand more of, when my child's having an emotion and a behavior, instead of looking at that behavior, I need to focus on the emotion that's driving the behavior, because we don't just act a way to act that way. There's something going on inside of us that's causing us to do that. So you really need to do that training ahead of time to prepare yourself for parenting in general. So it is really important.
And I see that with your own kids as well. If you've been parenting them and disciplining them in one way and they're still in the home, and now you have to discipline a foster child in a different way, you have to be able to either explain that to your kids or adapt to a different style of disciplining altogether. So there's a lot of things that go into that, because like you say, they're coming from trauma. They aren't in the same situation that your children may be in. How about explaining the purpose of fostering to your kids in the home, especially if they're younger children?
Yeah, that's a big question that we get, is how do I prepare my kids in the home for another child coming in, especially if they're younger, they might not understand. They just see it as an exciting, like a cousins are coming to stay for the weekend. But really talking to them, and depending on age appropriate, level of, these kids had a really hard home life. They had really hard situation. And so they're going to come stay with us for a little bit. And we are going to love them and be friendly and kind and help them for as long as they're with us. And really framing it that way is, as long as they are with us, this is the type of home life we're going to give them, and we're going to support them. There's a lot of research out there being really cautious of how much you share of a child's story, whether that is to your kids, to family members, because that's their journey. And they can tell if what's happened, to them, and they can say, you just see me as this sad child, and that changes their view of you. So really just framing that to the kids in the home already, of they're going to come in and there might be some harder situations and behaviors because of what they've experienced, but we're going to be patient and we're going to have a lot of empathy and just be flexible with what they need.
That's really good, because you want it to be as smooth as possible with your own kids and not disrupt their life too much. And obviously, you need to have them on board if they're of an age to have any choice or opinions in it, because it's going to affect them having somebody else in the home and somebody else being nurtured besides them. And depending on where they've come from in your own situation, they don't want to feel left out. We've got to be careful of that as well. How do you speak to the children, your own children, about, I think, overcoming the sense of loss when these kids when they go back, where they're reunified, so that your kids don't feel, they're going to feel loss and grief if they are in there for any amount of time. But I also wonder about the fact of, especially with younger ones, how you speak to them that they don't ever have to worry like you're going to give them away at a certain point, because little ones can't always understand. We think they do, but their capability isn't always there.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of talking about this idea of their first family or birth family, and just being really mindful of the positive adoption language that and foster care language that you use, and sharing that, they're here and they're working things out with their birth family or their family in that way. And so when they're able and ready, they'll go back to them, really framing it in that way of not like, well, they're just going away, because that's confusing for kids. And then, like you said, they're going to have that mindset of, well, am I just going to go away at some point? And get really worried. Right. And really worried about that. So really describing it to them, and kids are smart. They can have good intuition. They can pick up on things. So being mindful of wording it that way. And when it is time for them to go back and to reunify, just having honest conversations as they were here, and we're really excited for them because their birth family and their parents were able to do what they needed to do to have, so-and-so go back home with them. And so this is exciting for them, just trying to be mindful of that, but also allowing the kids to grieve in their way too, because it is hard. It feels like a loss of family. Sometimes these kids are with the foster family for 2 to 3 years. And so that's a lot of birthdays and holidays and big milestone moments. So being mindful of that, and just having really open communication with your kids about it, and allowing them to feel sad, and to hopefully, if it's possible, stay in touch and to make a plan, if you have interactions with the birth family, to be able to try and stay in touch and go to the state fair annually, or, something along those lines.
I think fostering, it gives such a great opportunity to give these children an opportunity to see that there's another lifestyle, there's another way to live, because when you only see one path, you think that's all you have.
Yeah.
And it's really great that they can have an opportunity for whatever amount of time it is to say, oh, there is something else out there. There is a different way we can live life. And I think, especially as Christians, we have such a great opportunity to not only present the gospel to them, because that's not why we're doing fostering, but it's part of what being a Christian is showing God's love to others, but just showing there's another way you can live your life, and there's hope, and there's opportunity, and there's education, and there's just all kinds of things that are awaiting them that single moms can present to them in a foster care home. It's really exciting to me to see how many, I've come across more and more, like you said, the numbers are growing of single moms who are doing fostering. And it's obviously not for the income, but they just have that heart of compassion, and they want to help those children as well as their own. And I think it helps our own kids to give. We get so focused on ourselves and our own problems sometimes that it's not healthy. And it's good to see that other people have issues too, and sometimes ours can look pretty small next to theirs. And
Yeah.
there's just so many great things about fostering. What else would you add to this that you would like to share with single moms about fostering?
I just think that, when it comes to fostering, the biggest question that I get when I'm teaching those classes are, can I really do this as a single parent? You might be single parent with no kids in the home, or you have like two or three, kids. And I say yes, because again, I've seen it. And I think it really goes down to your support system and your ability to give yourself self-care. Self-care is huge across the board, but if you feel that you have that support system, that you have to take Timmy to swimming lessons and Katie has a parent teacher conference, that you have somebody that can help you to do both and to give you that break when you need that break, because parenting is hard. I have a 9-month-old and I am exhausted all the time just kind of coming into that field of parenting. And so I can't imagine with a few more what that might do. And so making sure that you are giving yourself that time to take a break when you need it and lean on those supports, because that's how you can do this really well. But I just really wanted to encourage single moms in that you have this ability and you have this specific and special journey that you have been on and can really pour into the lives of these kids. And we need it. They're awesome kids. And it's hard that we sometimes have to sit and talk about the hard stuff and the trauma, but we always like to say that you don't need tools necessarily to parent a child when they're at their best. It's fun, it's easy, but you do need a little bit more help and tools to parent a child when they've been through a lot of tough stuff. So that's why we provide that.
And I think with the foster care, the way they have it now, there's so many organizations, not just the county, but other organizations that you go through that have so much support as well, and meetings and trainings, and help you with the questions that come up and how to handle things. You're not just thrown out there all by yourself. And so looking at some of the agencies you can go through as well, I think what we'll probably do is, as we list this podcast, I'll get some agencies from you that you know of, and we'll list those. So those that are interested can check them out and see which one might work for them. And it depends on what state they're in, because we go all across the United States. We actually go around the world with these podcasts, but we'll see what's in your area that maybe you can go through. And they work through the county, but they have more, I think what I've seen, they've had more in-depth care for the foster parents as well. And so it makes a difference because they've got the time and they can do it, and they're set up to do it that way.
Yeah. And I'm happy to share with you too, to post on here more resources. Some of the ones that I would really recommend right off the bat is 2 books, Beyond Consequences by Heather Forbes and The Explosive Child by Dr. Ross Green. Those are 2 that I read and loved. And they're really looking at more of the practical techniques in parenting kids with harder behaviors. But there's a variety of websites out there. Creating a Family, Families Are Forever. Those are 2 that have online trainings you can view. And I just always think the more trainings, the better. So there's lots of ways to get more resources.
Well, this is exciting, and I'm really glad to see you're working with this specifically and helping moms and dads, but moms specifically, the single moms, working with them in this area. And we have so many out there that I know are great moms, and this would be really great. And I also say, like you're saying, those that their kids are almost out of the house, or maybe they're out of the house, but you still have a lot more to give. And it's a great opportunity to reach those that are in need for whatever length of time. So I appreciate you being with us here today, and we'll list some more resources. I'll get a list from you and I'll list them. And we will continue with more on foster care, I believe. I don't think this will be the only one we'll do. And if you have any questions, single mamas, that you'd like us to answer and help you with, just on the Facebook or wherever, post your questions and we'll get you connected and try to find the answers for you. Thank you so much for being with Single Mamas today, Mykelti. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
It's been a joy. Thank you so much. Moms, I hope you tune into our podcast and our Facebook page. Singlemamas.org is our website, and you can find these podcasts and other helps at those locations. Thank you so much for joining us today.